4.4 million new unemployment claims. Rachel Maddow gloats over her perception that hydrochloroquine has failed. Should states be allowed to go bankrupt? The progressive transformation agenda behind much of this. When was the first U.S. COVID-19 case? Trump disagrees with Governor Kemp on Georgia. An update on Sweden's path. And Stacey Abrams as Biden's VP coming up. Welcome to the Buck Sexton Show, everybody. Appreciate you being here with me. It doesn't feel like we are making, as a nation, the progress at this point that I know many of us were hoping for. It does not feel like we are as near the end of this as we would have liked. That's for sure. I mean, and that's given the models. That's given what we had been told. We're seeing the curves bent. We're seeing the beginning of the reopening, and yet now there's all of this, this additional news about how there's going to be a second wave and how we're going to have to live this way perhaps forever. And, people are really, there seems to be a group out there who is incentivized to produce as much gloom and doom as possible in the media and in the Democratic Party every day. Whatever they can do to make everyone think that we are stuck and all we should do is just sit down, shut up, and listen to the experts. I got news for them. The economy's falling apart. It is falling apart around us right now. We cannot continue to do this. I keep saying it because we need to remember that. There's all these bad things out there and we can't go outside. I'm outside every day in New York City. So every time I have some smug lib come at me online, I want to say, shut up. I'm having to deal with the same risks that people in New York City are dealing with here every day. I'm actually leaving my house. I'm going grocery shopping. I'm walking the dog, doing all these things. And I do not accept that we're all going to live life like hermits for the next 18 months because we're not going to have a country left if we do this for another 6 months, maybe even another 3 months. I don't know what the real prognosis is for the economy. I mentioned yesterday, I do want to return to it today, and I didn't give it at the top of the show. The UN is predicting that there will be, because of the collective global economic meltdown that we're all going through, they're predicting there will be famines, that there will be large numbers of people on the brink of or actually starving to death as a result of the government lockdowns. Will they be counted in our calculus? Can we start to think about what that means for the rest of the world? The people that are going to get the hardest hit by this are those who don't have the ability to make choices to go flee to a second home, who don't have the ability to just stay in their spacious, either air-conditioned or heated home with Netflix and a plush couch and all the food they could ever want and eat. People that are going to suffer the worst are those who have the least say in how the elites are telling us this has to be dealt with. 4.4 million new unemployment claims. We're going to be at over 30 million out of a job by next week. Over 30 million people. It's a huge number. And I think that there's also an unwillingness to grapple with what's going to happen to a lot of other people that do have jobs. And this includes folks in media. This is going to include people that are currently part of the very loud lockdown consensus. With the slowdown across the board, you're going to see companies that even once we start going back to business, they're not going to have the same revenues. They're going to have to shed jobs. It's not like we go back and all of a sudden everything is, up and running and we have this headwind at our back that's going to push the economy forward. That's not what's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of economic pain to work through the moment that we start allowing for greater economic activity. Then there are going to be decisions made. Okay, well, now our revenue as a company, let's say, is down 30% or 50%. Can we make it to the end of the year like this? We can go to the office, but can we make it to the end of the year like this? Maybe not. Maybe you have to fire a lot more people. It's going to get much worse. Now, I have been an optimist as much as one can be under these circumstances all along, and I remain an optimist. And I do think that we're going to see certain states that are opening up sooner handle this okay. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect, but there are going to be states that have opened up sooner and are doing better than was anticipated by the the critics, we need to think of a word for people who every time anybody has some encouraging, I wouldn't even necessarily say it qualifies as fully good news, because a lot of the time it's hopefulness. Oh, we'll talk about their response to that one study from the VA about use of hydroxychloroquine that I talked to you about yesterday. Their response to any hopefulness about this situation is to downplay it, to ignore it, or to bring up the counter narrative of, well, that may be a good thing, but think about all these other terrible things, or that's not really a good thing. We don't know if that's a good thing. They want to live in misery and lockdown for as long as possible. I mean, I wonder what the impetus is for this, right? I'm not talking about even at the decision-making phase of what should we do. I just mean, I saw this news story. It looks like there might be this drug that could be helpful. And inevitably, people will come after you. And we all live in this increasingly online world because we don't get to see each other. So I feel like there's more activity online, more communication online, at least feels that way to me, than ever before. And they'll come after you. Well, why are you giving people false hope? I'm not giving false hope. I'm just saying here's a drug study that says maybe this will work. Can't we all sit around and say, wow, that would be nice if that would work. Let's see what the results are. You know, it's important psychologically. For people on the left, we remember hope, right? Hope and change. This is what we were told. That's all you needed to know. Hope and change. Vote for Obama. But now hope is to be stifled. It's to be pushed aside. It's to be shut down like the rest of things. Everything's shut down. Why is that also a political decision? I don't mean the shutdown. I mean the suppressing, the suppressing of hope. Why is that a political thing? I think we know the answer. You know the answer. I don't have to tell it to you, but we're not supposed to start saying that yet. We can't talk about the political implications of this and the psychosis of the left and its view that Donald Trump is going to destroy our democracy. If they really believe that, and they've been saying it nonstop for years, as you know, and a threat to world peace, a threat to our democracy, well, then what price are they not willing to pay to make sure that he doesn't lead the country for another 4 years? I think we're starting to see that the answer is there's really no price that they're unwilling to pay. They'll do whatever they have to do, whatever they have to say. And it's troubling because we all should be united in this, and yet I can't have anyone explain to me. I haven't had a worthwhile defense of why is it that if you are a left-wing Democrat in particular, you find the most negative view of everything in this story all the time. The drugs don't work. Social distancing isn't enough on its own. We need lockdown as long as possible. Don't leave your home. Nothing changes until there's a vaccine. Why should that coincide with one's politics? We know. And it's troubling to see that there's now a pushback from some of the people making decisions because they realize now it's really in their hands, right? Before it was, nobody knew what was coming. Nobody knew what was happening. Now it's, okay, we have more data. We've seen this beast that is COVID-19. We understand the monster we face. So what are we going to do about it? Well, here's, for example, Governor Cuomo, who I when I saw this clip initially, I thought, wow, this guy, he's every bit as bad as I always thought he was. Hasn't changed a bit. Play clip 1, Mark.
I don't know if you can hear, but there are protesters outside right now honking their horns and raising signs. We did speak to a few of them before we came in, and these are regular people who are not getting a paycheck. Some of them are not getting their unemployment check, and they're saying that they don't have time to wait for all of this testing, and they need to get back to work. Yeah. What is your response to them?
The illness is death. What is worse than death?
Well, what if somebody commits suicide because they can't pay their bills?
Yeah, but the illness is maybe my death as opposed to your death. They said the cure is worse than the illness. The illness is death. How can the cure be worse than the illness if the illness is potential death?
But what if the economy failing
worse than death
equals death because of mental illness? The people stuck at home.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't equal death. Economic hardship, yes, very bad. Not death.
Is there a fundamental right to work if the government can't get me the money when I need it? Is there a fundamental right
you want to go to work? Go take a job as an essential worker. Do it tomorrow.
Stunning, isn't it? This is the person who has the most direct authority over the worst hit part of the United States with COVID-19. Governor Andrew Cuomo, you hear what he's saying? The alternative is death. Well, no, it's actually the alternative is an infection that's already spread to. I'm going to say this now. This is a prediction, and since predictions apparently don't matter when you're wrong, why not make as many of them as possible, right? The IHME models that we were all told about, totally wrong. Disastrously, shockingly, absurdly wrong. Oh, 2 million people will die. Actually, it's 250,000. Actually, it's 50,000. Or now they were saying 60,000, whatever the number may be. I'll make a prediction that I think we'll find that about close to 1 million people in New York City have been exposed to this and already have some form of antibodies. I think that's going to be what happens based on the serology testing we've already seen. I'm not just pulling that number out of thin air. It's at least 3 or 4. I mean, they have 150,000 cases already. So unless you think we're catching all of the cases that are out there, knowing that about 50% of the cases by some studies are asymptomatic, how many are we really catching? And so you easily get close to 1 million people that have this disease. And that brings up, all right, so realistically, what we're facing is something that kills less than 1% of the people who get it. Somewhere now, when you extrapolate even 0.5% across a huge population, it's devastating. A lot of people will die. That's true. But it is not death for everyone at all. And to suggest that, to say that, well, then what are we supposed to do, Governor Cuomo? Because the disease is not going away. So if our choices are lockdown or death, there is no choice. It's just lockdown. There's no way that we could ever reopen until we have a cure for this thing. And I'm not sitting around placing large bets on having a cure anytime soon, therapeutically or with a vaccine. We don't know. Part of the recognition that I think a lot of people are coming to now is that our massive, international and, scientific community and researchers, and they don't really have a handle on this thing. And how impressive can it really feel when the entire world is shut down by something that either escaped from a lab in China or some guy who ate a bat in the Wuhan market, which I don't think is what happened, but that we're all shut down by this, and no one can think of a way to beat this yet? We have supercomputers, we have space travel, we have, we're all carrying around, telecommunication devices in our pockets that can show video to somebody on the other side of the planet instantaneously. We got all these. We can't figure out how to deal with this. It's hard not to be disappointed, and I know that this is just a layperson's view of it. It's hard not to be disappointed. This is the best we've got so far in terms of a cure. This is where we are. But Governor Cuomo, I want to know how many other Democrat governors are going to take the same approach, which is if you don't listen to what we're telling you, even though some of the stuff we're telling you is stupid and counterproductive. For example, outdoor transmission, there's more and more studies coming out that show outdoor transmission of this is negligible. That doesn't mean impossible, negligible. It's not a risk that should concern anybody, under normal circumstances. Yeah, you don't want to walk up to somebody and cough in their face, but outdoor transmission of this in normal circumstances is negligible. So we do what they say or we're going to die. This is what the governor of New York is saying. This is a false choice, and it's also starting to show the dangerous mindset of somebody who is a leftist, a statist. They're also working with an agenda here. They talk about it sometimes. We're not supposed to talk about it because they'd rather do it without us noticing. To use this crisis to transform the country, there are many ways that it's already happening. But do as I say, or people will die. It's not just you. Remember, someone else might die. Do as I say, or people will die. This is the ultimate false choice that can result in the complete revocation of all freedom. He's effectively telling you the state has decided that you have no freedom anymore. Because if that's really the choice, what is the state not allowed to do? The pushback, my friends, needs to be firm. It needs to be united. We need to tell them, sorry, life has risk. And our idiot leadership that couldn't prevent this and didn't know what they were doing during this does not get to indefinitely tell us, do as I say or death. No. No, I will not. I will not comply. Man, I remember hearing about the American spirit, and we would all talk about how we have this individualism, this rugged individualism. You know, don't tread on me, give me liberty or give me death. Governor Cuomo, it's do as I say, or people die. It's not really much of a choice, is it? Fortunately, it's also not really true, and we'll be talking about that more on the show today. I have an update already on what I said before. On April 20th, I tweeted out prediction with widespread serology testing for antibodies. We in New York City are going to find out that about 1 million of us have already had COVID-19 and didn't know it, maybe closer to 2 million. That's a lot of people who are likely immune and can get back out there safely. Now, likely immune, because we don't know if it has immunity. Though right now, SARS-1, remember, this is SARS-CoV-2 is the more technical name for it. SARS-CoV-1, we do know that you have at least 2 years of immunity if you were to get it. So the expectation would be that you would also have at least some period. And remember, if you got this and you're immune for 2 years, well, that would give you, that's obviously a lot better than the alternative. But producer Nick, just in the pause we had there, sent me the data from this morning. And it turns out Governor Cuomo, and I just missed this right before it came on air, Governor Cuomo has the antibody study preliminary estimates and the weighted results out, and percent positive results for New York City. Well, for Long Island, it's 16%. Westchester, Rockland, 11%. New York City, 21.2%, which means if you were to do so, one-fifth of New York City has, based on the New York City testing results, as of today, has been exposed to this and therefore would have some level of antibodies to this, most likely. We still don't know a lot about how the body responds. But that means if you do 1/5 of 8 point whatever, they're not even really sure what the number is, but let's call it 8 point something million New Yorkers. You got well over 1 million people here. So the prediction was correct. I didn't even, what I said to you before, and I that's why I told you about the tweet. I've been saying this for a while. I didn't know that the preliminary data had just come out today. But yeah, so we've got 1 million people. So he told us that it's stay home or death. But 1 million of us have had this. 1 million people, according to the city's own figures. And 1 million people are obviously, thank God, not dead. So that's a false choice that he's offering. That's not a fair way to look at the problem. And the dismissiveness with which he refers to people who aren't essential workers. What a jerk.
Most likely you never heard of this drug until last month, when primetime Fox News hosts and then the president started incessantly promoting it on a daily, sometimes hourly basis as what they were quite sure was a miracle cure for coronavirus. There's no big deal for this coronavirus thing. We've got a cure already. They promoted it despite 0 clinical trials and next to no evidence of its effectiveness. Beginning in the middle of March, hydrochloroquine was mentioned hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times on the Fox News channel, particularly by its primetime hosts, and by the president from the White House podium. Until about a week ago, when those mentions by Fox News and by the president just dropped off a cliff. They just stopped bringing it up. And we don't know why that is. But yesterday, we did get the results of a new study, which is yet to be peer-reviewed, but is the largest to date involving the use of hydroxychloroquine among 368 veterans in veterans hospitals across the U.S. In that trial, the drug was found to have no benefit, and there were actually more deaths reported among those who were given that drug than those who were given standard care. The authors of the study said, quote, "These findings highlight the importance of awaiting the results of ongoing prospective randomized controlled studies before widespread adoption of these drugs." Yeah, you think?
Congrats to Rachel Maddow. Must be really satisfying for her to know that maybe this drug doesn't work as well as was hoped for, and therefore many more people will be dying from COVID-19 than would have had these trials been successful. Yeah, way to go. Blame it on Fox News, blame it on Trump. I just this morning spoke to a doctor who was at a large Brooklyn hospital. They still have patients on hydroxychloroquine. You know why? Some of them, it seems to help. And you know what the alternative is to hydroxychloroquine? Nothing. Nothing. What are these people doing? What is Rachel Maddow's problem? Why is hydroxychloroquine a political issue? Because Trump's not the only one. Governor Cuomo was touting it too. Because there's nothing else. You know, if I tell you that you're going to go into a duel with somebody and I'm going to give you a pistol and you don't know if that pistol is loaded or not, but I can either give you a pistol or you can go in barehanded and see how you do. Are you going to take the pistol? It's that straightforward. It's that clear. But they all pretend like they don't understand what's going on. Oh no, Trump is lying. I mean, I saw, fake Tapper yesterday tweeted out something about how you can't Sharpie a drug into being safe. The drug is safe, you idiot. Millions and millions and millions of people have taken it and still take it. No drug is perfect, but what's the alternative? What is the alternative? Why is this a left-right issue? It's about a drug that can save lives. No one said that, is being called out here from Fox, or no one said it's a cure. We're done. Great. Trump certainly never said that. He said, look, I'm hopeful. I've seen some good things. Are they rooting against it? What is their problem? It's still being used. This study is not a good study, the one that they have cited. It is not a better study than the ones that have shown that it does work. There are people who have taken it who have gotten better. Did they get better because of the drug? We don't know. But the doctors who are actually treating people on this and putting people on it, you tell them, don't do this, and they'll look at you like, we're trying to save lives here. Why wouldn't we do this? And as I've told you, and this is what the people that are actually using this drug, it may in fact be, there's an article in The Lancet, a British medical journal, it may be the case that you need to take it as a prophylaxis, which is going to become very complicated because who needs to take it for how long? But it would be very good for medical workers if they found this out, people that are at very high risk of exposure. If it's an effective prophylaxis, because you can take it for long periods of time for malaria prophylaxis, you might be able to do the same here. But again, we don't know. The docs that I'm talking to are saying that it may be an issue of timing. It also may be a combination with other drugs. There's this azithromycin and zinc and some of these other things that people have been using with some success. But more to the point, are they claiming, and this is where you really have to push on the Maddows and the Tappers and the fake jerk news out there. Are doctors at major New York hospitals who are dealing with people who are dying every day, hundreds and hundreds of them, are they giving out hydroxychloroquine because Trump mentioned it in a press conference? Think about how demeaning that is. You think these medical professionals go, oh, well, Donald Trump mentioned it, so we're just going to give it to people. No, it's just cleared for use if the doctor thinks it's worthwhile. Do you know why doctors in New York hospitals are using hydroxychloroquine? Not all of them, but there are a lot of doctors who have been using hydroxychloroquine with COVID-19 patients. Because other doctors in Europe have said that they have seen some early success with it, and we're trying to save as many lives as possible. Are those European doctors that have been using it since the beginning or since the middle of March? Are they doing it because of Trump and Fox News? These people are morons that are telling you this. Okay, they're not helpful. In fact, they're the opposite of helpful. They're making things worse because their brains have been so polluted with political hatred. First and foremost, if you told me that we could cure COVID-19 tomorrow, but Trump would lose the election, you know what? I'd say we got to cure COVID-19 tomorrow. That's the moral choice. That's how I feel about it. If we could save all these lives, save all these people and ventilators and all the other people that are going to be getting sick and what happens in the fall, I have to wonder with some of these Democrats, some of these leftists. If it was, we could cure COVID-19 tomorrow, but Joe Biden would lose, where would they come down on that one? Where would they come down on that? I don't know. I think I have to ask where Brad Stelter is over at CNN and he's crying into his pillow because he's really upset. Yeah, dude, we're all going through a lot of stress. We're all upset. You don't have to go on TV and talk about how you're crying into your pillow at night because the world is upside down. We get it. But Jeff Zucker told me I could. Here he is doing the same dance about how hydroxychloroquine is some kind of right-wing. You want to talk about conspiracies? They're the ones that are acting like it's a conspiracy. Play the Stelter clip, please.
Yes, and the millions of Americans who use this drug for approved purposes, including my wife, people who have autoimmune issues and need this drug, became worried they wouldn't be able to get it because of the drug pushing that was happening on Fox News and from the White House podium. The president yesterday was asked about this news study, and he said he hadn't seen the report. And that may be because Fox News is barely talking about it, because it doesn't fit the narrative that was being promoted in late March and early April. But recently, Fox has moved on. They've stopped talking about this drug and the hope that it could be beneficial. They've moved on to other quick fixes and other pro-Trump narratives. This network, these stars, they think they're helping the president, but they're actually hurting him when they push these narratives. And ultimately, they're misleading their viewers, and that's why it is so troubling. Why would we ever think a Fox News star or any president should be promoting a drug? It's outlandish.
What's outlandish is how deranged and stupid and infantile Stelter is, and his colleagues at CNN. I mean, CNN really is a blight on America at this point. The same way that I felt about Gawker, which for those of you who maybe remember, Gawker was this tabloid website that weaponized wokeness before we were even really calling it wokeness, but also really reveled in the destruction of reputations and lives in the most public and humiliating way possible, and overwhelmingly against, if they could get you and you're conservative, that was their favorite thing. They did it to a lot of people, but if they could destroy you and you were in any way somebody that stood for something and you were associated with the right and with virtue and morality and decency, aspiring to those things. I'm not saying exemplifying those things, because we on the right actually have principles. We don't necessarily always meet them, but we do have them. The left, it's just power. They would destroy people, and there was a glee in the destruction of human beings, and that was one of the great things. Was when Peter Thiel, one of the great things that he accomplished, the PayPal guy, was funding the lawsuit to destroy Gawker. CNN is in that same now category of moral rot and I think just complete dishonor. It's become a problem for this country. And look, they're allowed. I'm not saying that, the law shut them down or something, but people of goodwill and good faith should no longer watch that channel. And I used to work there. It's gotten a lot worse. It's gotten crazy. I was an opposition voice inside that building. Now there are no opposition voice. Now it's just the lunatics are running everything. And if you deviate from the narrative, you're done. And it's really horrific. Think about what Stelter was saying here, though. He's giving it all away. This is a pro-Trump narrative. Hydroxychloroquine working is a pro-Trump narrative. That's like psychotic. This is known. There are doctors all over the New York City area who get this. I just spoke to an infectious disease doctor yesterday. I walked you through what he told me about this trial, and they're still figuring out. Maybe some people get too sick too fast for the drug to take effect. Maybe it has to be given as a prophylaxis early, before you show any real symptoms that have gone into the lungs. They're figuring, and when you go to the hospital has been determining when you get the hydroxychloroquine here, and some people wait too long to go to the hospital. That is already established. I was just going through, there's over 3,000 patients. They've crunched the numbers from a major hospital system. I've got the data. I tweeted it out, looking at comorbidities. Obesity and hypertension are the two biggest concerns other than age. Age is number one, and then obesity and hypertension are right behind it. And then there's a whole bunch of other comorbidities that make the fight against this disease much harder for individuals. But the doctors, think about this. It's really a slap in the face. We're always hearing about how, everyone supports our medical community so much. I do, you do. But do the people that are saying that these doctors were prescribing this drug to patients based on nothing? Based on wishful narratives of Fox News hosts? New York is like 9-1 lib. You think New York doctors are treating people with hydroxychloroquine because Trump mentioned it on TV? This is what's being... I'm playing the clips for this. Maddow and Stelter. These people are a disgrace. We're in a war, and if they're not rooting for the enemy to win sometimes, I want to know what they think they're doing. We all know who the enemy is here. A virus that is ravaging our society and destroying our economy. And we can't be unified on this? This is now just so political. Well, like I said, you know, Trump used to call CNN, he called the fake news the enemy of the people. The CNN's the enemy of the people these days. I don't know how else to say it. I don't know what else to, or we could call it the enemy of truth, perhaps, as I have said in the past. But their take on the hydroxychloroquine situation is just, it's just pathetic, and it's wrong, and it's Trump derangement syndrome making decisions for them.
We are continuing to see declines in all the major metro areas around the country that have been most impacted. Numbers remain low and steady on the West Coast, in Washington State and in California. The New York metro area, New Jersey, Connecticut, all appear to be past their peak. And as our scientists may reflect in a few moments, we also are seeing the positive rate going down, which is actually even as encouraging as the declining cases. The Detroit metro area appears to be past its peak. The Seattle metro area, as I mentioned, remains stable. New Orleans metro area is the most stable of all the large metro outbreaks. We also are continuing to see stabilization and even declines in Houston and Atlanta and Nashville and Baltimore and Indianapolis and elsewhere. This is a tribute to the American people, to the fact that the American people have taken to heart the guidelines.
So there is good news, and I think it's worth hearing it there from Vice President Pence, who's been a very steady voice and a calming but commanding presence during this crisis. I remember in the early days when there was all this mockery that Pence would be coordinating the task force, as if people don't understand what coordinating means. It means putting leadership in charge, in touch with other leadership, and making sure that everyone has the resources and the authorities that they need to do what they need to do. No one's pretending that Mike Pence was all of a sudden the expert on this issue. And there's some fascinating stuff, and maybe I'll have time to go into it today, about what the experts have said in the early days of pandemics in the past, the numbers that they were expecting to die from it, and what ended up really happening, and how much in the early days was wrong. The people that keep telling you to listen to the experts don't know what listening to the experts has actually meant in previous decades. I'm not going to talk about 100 years ago. I'm talking about 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So you also have this line that they're going to continue to repeat, because it's almost a cultural thing for Democrats to believe, they think the science is with them. The science is on their side, and they believe in science. And that's how you get things like this, where Joe Biden is telling people, he says something this monumentally stupid, while the economy, which is what I want to focus more on in the next hour, while the economy is in just the worst shape since the Great Depression, where it is right now, the worst shape since the Great Depression. But we're only supposed to hear from Fauci? Who thinks that this is an intelligent thing to say? Oh, Joe Biden, when he remembers where he is, he thinks this is smart. Play 6.
But if we do this in a slow motion way that is consistent with the scientists, look, we'd all be better off if for the next month and a half, the only person we heard from the White House was Dr. Fauci. Yeah, I'm serious. I mean, to the scientists. That's where we have to go. Listen to the science. This is a false choice to say we're either going to have an economy or we're going to be healthy. You're not going to have an economy if you're not healthy.
Just listen to scientists. Yeah, that's what Joe Biden. Just listen to the scientists. And the people who keep saying you're not going to have an economy until you beat the disease, or if the disease continues, there is no path forward. There is no path forward that does not involve continued risk from this disease, including the current lockdown. We have some people who are out there, and God bless them, frontline workers, frontline medical personnel. You know, we have essential workers and frontline medical personnel. I think that's the preferred terminology. You know, and by the way, the truckers who listen to this program, man, I love you guys. Every time we bring up truckers, I get a bunch of awesome messages from Team Buck truckers. So, and gals, by the way. I know there's some lady truckers who listen to. Just want to say thank you so much for always being. It honestly, it motivates us to know that we're keeping you company during long hauls, bringing food to the likes of me and producer Mark and millions of others.